69 here, and today we got another Modern Warfare Gunsmith guide for you today. So today we are going to be using the EBR-14, and what we're going to be recreating is the M14 battle rifle with the Starlight scope, which if you know about Vietnam, that was like their early thermal, like night vision type scope. It was like this giant thing that you put on your M14, your M16. I even think that they had it for the M1 and M2 carbines, but it's basically the scope on top of the rifle that takes in the light from the moon and from the stars to power it, basically, for its night vision capabilities. We'll get more into that in the facts section, but for our M14 Starlight build, we're making a more modernized one. If you wanted to make an older M14 Starlight, you just not use a stock, but this is our modern M14 Starlight build. So we are using the FSS Raider Chassis Pro stock, which will increase your aim down sights and aiming walking movement. So basically just so that this thing's actually usable as an assault rifle. I mean, it's a DMR, but we want it to move like an assault rifle. Always use sleight of hand, you guys already know that. 15 round magazines. You could put 20 rounds. I put the 15 rounds just because we'll be able to move a little bit faster without such a huge increase in movement speed. I don't know the very specifics of it. I just know that it does slow down your movement speed, and I think it slows down your reload speed as well. So we are using the tack barrel, basically make it ADS a lot quicker. And we got the Merc thermal optic because, well, that's needed to make this weapon what we want to make it. So that's what's gonna make the M14 Starlight and M14 Starlight is the scope. Alright, so let's go to the test this thing. Alright, here we are loading onto Rust. This is just around the beginning of Season 2. The actual gameplay that will be shown later in the video is still from Season 1, but yeah, basically Season 2 has just begun and we are on Rust, everyone's favorite Modern Warfare 2 map. Well, not mine, mine is High Rise, but
enemy threats in the AO, weapons
yeah. Alright, so here we are. So we're gonna test the ADS recoil with the Starlight M14. Let's see how it is. Alright. Now we're gonna try to compensate for that recoil. Actually got a tighter grouping the first time. It's a semi-auto, so it doesn't super matter too much, but some people like to see the recoil patterns for these, so that's why we do them. So obviously, since this is like a semi-auto rifle, it's gonna be a lot more basically just gonna depend more on your accuracy and your shot placement, timing. But if you've used the EBR-14, you kind of understand how its recoil works. Like, it's mostly vertical. The quicker you shoot, the more all over the place it's gonna be. Which I guess you could say for any weapon in semi-auto, but yeah, so that is the recoil patterns for the M14 EBR. Or not M14 EBR. This is, well, it is an EBR, but this is our Starlight. Alright guys, here we are in the information section, and for this section I'm not going to be covering the M14 itself. I'm going to be covering the scope, because that's what makes this build different from a regular M14, basically. So it is the I mentioned earlier that this is the Starlight build based off the M14 that had the Starlight scope back in Vietnam. This scope was formerly known as the AN/PVS-2 Starlight. There is not a there's not a lot of information on the PVS-2, at least not that I could find, but there is a lot of information on the PVS-4, which is a later derivative of it. So PVS-4 Starlight was made in 1978 and is still used to this day. It was used during the Persian Gulf War. Weighs like 4 pounds. The older PVS 2 was a lot heavier, and if you've seen the night vision sights even before the original Starlight that went on the M16 and M14 during Vietnam, like the ones that go like on the M1 carbine and the M2 carbine, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, it's like huge. Like it basically has like what the fuck is it called? It's like this giant like screen thingy on it. But anyway, so this PVS-4 was first seen during the Gulf War and was also used in Iraq, and has been used to replace third generation weapon sights. So this technology has existed since the 1950s, but the PVS-4 was considered the first practical, high-quality version that the military actually liked. So the older, and even the Starlight scopes use basically the light and stuff from the moon and from the stars, basically to help power it and find like basically so that you can actually see what's going on. So with the PVS-4, they basically had a version that had basically was the first version to not have like significant distortion. So basically during like different lighting conditions and stuff, it was a lot easier to see what was going on, and it made it a lot easier so that the muzzle flash didn't just completely fuck up what you were seeing when you used the scope. So that was an issue that the military presumably had. So it wasn't until 1975 that they replaced the Vietnam era PVS-2 scope. So then the first production contract in 1976 was issued for 47,074 units, and they weren't deployed until 1978. By 2002, more than 1,500 150,000 units were produced by the US by itself. So basically it has like a day and night adapter to it, so I guess so that you could use the scope during the day, which I would guess would be pretty useful, because having a scope that is only useful during half of the day is not that great, or wouldn't be that great. But because I think in the 60s, that was before rail systems existed, so I could imagine it'd be like a pain in the ass to take off the scope just so you can use your iron sights during the day, you know. So what else to say? Alright, so we'll talk about some of the countries that use it. It was formerly used by the U.S. Marine Corps in the U.S. Turkey used it for the Turkey Land Forces. Spain had the Grupo Especial de Operaciones, so Special Operations Group, which they call the GEO. And it was used in Georgia by Georgian Armed Forces and Police Special Task Units. You can use it as a basically up until recent times, prohibitive costs and availability basically made it only for military, but they are civilian legal to buy night vision scopes and stuff. They're just super expensive, which obviously makes a lot of sense for night vision to be so expensive because of the technology is so complex. And something a lot of people don't realize about night vision in real life is that there has to be some sort of lighting source for the scope to work. It doesn't just automatically work inside what maybe modern night vision, but like older night vision essentially needed light and like some like sources of light so that you can see what's going on. So that's how night vision works in both weapon systems and in general back then. So that's how night vision was. Anyways, you guys didn't come here to get a lecture on the way that night vision worked or whatever in the 1960s. You guys came here for gameplay, so that's what we're gonna skip to. Alright, so gameplay is
Team deathmatch. Enemy threats in the AO. Weapons off. We're in the lead.
Reloading. Got one. Enemy at the center. Oh, I'm taking fire.
Got a personal radar drone ready for it. Care package arriving on station. Friendly UAV overhead.
Enemy at the
Be
center.
advised. Strike inbound. Allied cruise missile away. Friendly care package inbound. Loading 2-0. Good job. Right away. Personal radar drone ready. Enemy personal radar in the air. Care package arriving on station.
Enemy at the center.
Halfway there. Big side. Got a personal radar drone ready for escort. Care package arriving on station.
Copy. Jaguar 3-0 en route for personal radar coverage.
Copy that.
Be advised, friendly precision airstrike inbound. UAV overhead. Got a safety gun on station.
Forklift.
Personal radar drone ready. We're winning this. Keep it tight. Friendly care package down.
This is Jaguar 3-0.
Right, go for launch. Sentry guns down. Enemy UAV overhead.
This is Loader 2-0. Good copy. Front west.
Copy that. Nomad 2-3 ready for drop.
Stand down, lads. They've had enough of one gun.
Alright, so you guys saw the gameplay of the M14 Starlight in action. So what do I think about it? It's a really fun gun to use. I think that the EBR 14 is a really underrated gun in this game. I don't think that it's necessarily the most competitive, but I think that people need to stop sleeping on it, because in the right hands it can do some pretty badass shit. Especially because it's the only semi-auto DMR in this game, so you can put out a lot of damage with the EBR 14 in this game, and with the Starlight, our Starlight Weapon mod thing, it's even better because you can ADS a lot quicker. I think that you can make this a weapon that can ADS even quicker than what we had it at, which is something that we'll look at in a future video. But for as for the feel of the EBR Starlight custom build that we did, it is fun. I think that it's a weapon you should try out. I don't think that everyone would like it, but I think that you kind of have to adapt your playstyle to using semi-auto as like a assault rifle instead of like as a DMR. But I think once you do that, it's really an enjoyable weapon and it feels rewarding to use. So that's it for this video, guys. Hope you like it. Like, comment, and subscribe.